Welcome back to my channel, bonsoir et re-bienvenue sur ma chaîne. My name is Muriel and this evening I will be giving my first impression, my first thoughts on the opening episodes of the Foundation TV series produced by Apple TV+. Quick disclaimer, as I've stated in my reaction video, I have never read Foundation, the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. I am for once going into this IP blind without any adaptational expectations, so we're all clear on that. Personally, I enjoyed what I saw. I thought those two episodes were fairly engaging. My interest for the continuation of the series was definitely piqued, and yeah, I thought it was a good start. So this isn't going to be too structured, just going to go through the things I found enjoyable or which left me somewhat puzzled, but I don't think there was anything, to be honest. I'm going to be fairly spoiler-free for most of it and then let myself get into some noteworthy details, I guess. So perhaps if you haven't watched those first two episodes, I'm going to begin with like a synopsis of what was presented in that first episode. Basically, you have a galactic empire. At the heart of this galactic empire is the planet city of Trantor, governed by a tripartite emperor is what I'm going to call him. Basically, it's a person who has been cloned consecutively for however many years, but cloned and decanted is what it's called at different ages. So this tripartite emperor has a child self called Dawn, a man in the prime of his life basically called Day, and then an older man a bit past middle age called Dusk. And they are referred to as Empire, which I thought was actually quite interesting. Instead of being called Emperor or His Excellency Magnificence, he is referred to as Empire because he incarnates the Galactic Empire, I guess. And I thought that was, it's a tiny detail, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was kind of neat. Oh yeah, okay, that's a bit different. But then you have this mathematics professor called Harry Seldon, who has developed something called psychohistory, which is basically massively big data analysis and projection, is how I'm going to put it. In a way, he can predict the future, but it's not prescience as we're used to it in a way. He can't predict what you're going to eat for lunch or when any one individual is going to die, but he can predict what kind of things are going to happen on a population scale. The episode starts out with a jump in the future and then quickly focuses on a female character called Gail Dornick. Now, I understand that apparently in the books this character is supposed to be male, but here she is female. Gail Dornick is a very gifted natural mathematician. She comes from a planet where science and maths are considered heretical. She's banished from her planet, but then has won a position as a student of Dr. Harry Seldon, is how I understood it, after a big maths competition. But actually it turns out that the Empire wanted her there because they think that she can disprove Harry Seldon's predictions. The idea is that Harry Seldon is trying to sell to the Imperial government that he can find a way to soften the fall of the Empire, because that is what his models are predicting. The massive crash of the centuries-long scrap that, millennia-long galactic empire, soften the fall and make sure that the dark ages that will inevitably follow won't be as long as they could be. For that, he needs to create a foundation of human knowledge upon which those future humans in those future dark ages will be able to rely to rebuild civilization. And it goes on from there. So first, visually, I was really impressed, actually. I was like, damn, they pulled the money into this, didn't they? I've never seen anything produced by Apple TV, so I didn't know what to expect. And crap, it looked good. It looked like a big budget SFF production is how I'm going to put it. However, I thought it had a specific singular visual signature. I saw some people saying it was very derivative, generic, science fiction-y looking. For some elements, sure, but I thought it looked like itself. Some people compared it to Star Wars. I'm like, it doesn't really look like sure, yes, because Star Wars has an empire, an imperial unit. There's a galactic empire. Okay, but Foundation is like the OG galactic empires. If anything, Star Wars took from Foundation, and visually speaking, sure, there'll be things you'll be familiar with, but that makes sense in a way. I don't see that's a problem, really. If anything, some of the elements to do with the imperial government reminded me of the Hunger Games. games, of all things, rather than Star Wars. I think Star Wars is a lot more colourful and gaudy almost, in some respects. Keep in mind, I've never seen like the newer Star Wars movies, except for like the first one, which I've forgotten almost entirely. I think Star Wars is a lot more colourful and like exotic with the creatures and the aliens than Foundation is, so okay, whatever. Musically and sound design wise, I don't have much to say for like the meat of the episodes. However, I really liked the intro montage. I thought it had a, once again, unique, distinctive visual flair and visual signature and musical signature. Like, I really enjoyed the main musical theme for Foundation because it marries more contemporary styles of like science fiction-y music, but it also calls back to older productions with some of like the wind instrument notes. Okay, in all fairness, some of that reminded me of the original Star Wars movies and magnificent scores of John Williams, but in a good way though. And at the same time, it felt unique, like its own thing. And I really enjoyed that musical theme. It wasn't epic or grandiose like what I got with Dune, but it wasn't intimate or small-minded either, if that makes sense. It was its own thing and it fit the story that you're presented with perfectly, I thought. And I really liked the visuals of that intro montage as well, with like pixels and impure-looking imagery and things like that. I thought that was pretty neat. When it came to the acting and the characters, I thought it was satisfactory. Again, it's maybe not the thing I pay the most attention to. I like Jared Harris as Harry Seldon, but I mean, I've enjoyed Jared Harris before. I enjoyed the performance of the actress who plays Gail Dornick, and I was also reasonably taken in by the actors who played this, what I'm going to call tripartite emperor, especially the one who is Day, I'm pretty sure. So the man in the prime of his life, of his years. I thought he was convincing. So yeah, I mean, the acting was fine to me. I enjoyed the fact that there was also an AI character, and I say this because I know for a fact that Isaac Asimov also wrote books which have to do with the robots and the AIs, though they are linked, like in the same universe as the Foundation books, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And yeah, the only thing that was just, I couldn't care less was this romantic subplot that I thought was just very, yeah, that was generic, meh, lackluster. It was just whatever. It was very insta-lovey, and I'm not about that at all. I'm not that about romance in general, but insta-love, I'm like, get the F out of here. It wasn't offensively bad, but I could have done without that, basically. And that felt just very generic, Anglo-Saxon Western TV production-ish, is how I'm going to put it. With regards to how those two episodes introduced the universe of Foundation and it's, or at least the main storyline of the TV show, once again, from what I've read in comments, the first episode is fairly books accurate, not so much the second. Is that a big problem for you book fans, or are you understanding of the fact that adaptations sometimes have to take deviations to explore things in a slightly different way? I'm sure there'll be very divergent opinions about that, but for a non-book fan, for the storyline they're going for in this TV show, I thought it was pretty streamlined, very easy to follow, but also introduced interesting concepts, which I'm assuming will be developed further into the series. So like this psychohistory, which is very reminiscent of like big data analysis and big data projections allowed by said analysis, and it was engaging. I mean, these aren't short episodes as well, like an hour a pop, and I finished episode 1, I was like, okay, next one immediately. So yeah, I was kept interested and entertained and engaged, and I was trying to figure out the world and how it works based on the information I was given, and trying also to like predict what was going to happen. And linked to that, like I just mentioned, the concepts which are introduced. So psychohistory, the preservation of knowledge is, I think, going to be very, I mean, it's very important to the project of the Foundation, and I assume it's going to remain something important to the series, maybe. And there's this brilliant scene that tackles the question of how do you decide what items of knowledge are worth preserving, and also who gets to make those calls, who gets to decide that. And, well, you know, the good old classics of decadent empires and empires falling into dust, and the excesses and abuses of power with this tripartite emperor, this galactic empire. You see some scenes that deal with rebellious planets who, bad things happen to them, is how I'm going to put it. And, you know, just emperors being shite. Because duh. Because historical precedent. Because humanity. That's just in the realm of more general political theming, which you can get in other genres than science fiction. And with regards to like more SF techie things, you know, there's cloning, there's a very accomplished AI, which I feel is going to have a bigger role in the story. Also, given the little I know about the other books Isaac Asimov wrote. There's also this very, very cool space bridge, I think. Well, no, sorry, a space elevator, which goes from like the surface, or I mean just under the surface of the planet of Trantor into space. And so it creates like a space airport where spaceships can dock. And the funny thing is, you know what it reminded me of? Basically a silk space elevator in Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. The spiders from Kahn's world build a space elevator out of spider silk, which gives them access to the silk satellites, you know, orbiting their planet, which seemed to me a bit far-fetched in that novel with regards to the science fictional foundations of it. But I'm like, okay, well, it's there. And also there's, again, it's just a minor little detail, but it's the kind of thing I noticed. At some point, a character gets put in like a space pod that can allow you to survive in space for however long, and which fills in liquid, which you can breathe through. And that reminded me, because I've seen that before, it reminded me of The Abyss by James Cameron. If you've never heard of this movie, it's a movie with aliens in the abyssal ocean, basically. Very pretty aliens. They look like angels. I drew them at the time when I saw that movie. I was like, oh, but they look so nice and sweet. They look like angel manta ray type aliens. And in that movie, they put a woman in liquid that can actually, I guess, carry oxygen through the lungs. I went to check it out to see if that was a real thing. I think it's actually based on real technology. So that reminded me of that. So you see all these little references to complete out of the way science fictional IPs. I thought that was neat. So I'm going to conclude these first impressions here. I could have gone into more detail about the costuming, the makeup, etc. But I mean, you get the gist. I thought that visually it was very beautiful, and I thought it was engaging storytelling-wise. I thought the acting was good enough for my taste in any case. And there was a whetting of the appetite amount of science fiction-y concepts and thematic threads is how I'm going to put it. Once again, I have no idea. Well, I mean, I have some idea from what I've read of how it holds up to the novels, but since I haven't read the novels, you know, that's not at stake for me. So I wasn't hampered or satisfied on that front. For those of you who were disappointed by this opening act of the Foundation TV adaptation, maybe give it another try for like a couple of episodes, and then if it just doesn't get better, yeah, drop it. I would not advise investing in something that's just going to deeply disappoint you. That's not the point of watching such adaptations. So yeah, if it didn't work out for you, I'm sorry, that's too bad. But if you want to, you can share why it didn't work for you. I'd be interested in like learning more about Foundation in any case, at least the books. And if you're part of the fandom that thought it was satisfactory, good to even very good, then I'm very glad for you. I'm happy that you can add that, or I mean, hopefully, as the series progresses, I'm happy that you can add that potentially to your personal list of good SFF adaptations. For my part, I thought it was good enough. I definitely want to continue with this series. I will try to report back once season 1 is finished, and yeah, share some more in-depth thoughts with you. In the meantime, I hope you all have a lovely day, evening, or whichever time of day you prefer. Take good care of yourselves, and I shall see you again reasonably soon in the next video. Bye-bye!